Well, hello.
Hey man, what's going on, Tom?
Nothing. I'm in my truck because I had to do an errand that a dad has to do. My son needs watercolor brushes for school.
Oh, oh really?
Yeah. What happened to my lighting? It's way too bright. I shut the screen up here, and then it got kind of weird over here. I don't know. Either my face was really bright white or my hat was really bright white. So I chose my hat,
So you had to do the watercolor brush run today.
which
Is
is
what I.
weird. Like I don't. He's not even in an art class. He goes. It's like last night. He's all, I need watercolors. And I was like, what are you, a hippie? Like, who paints with watercolors? So I don't know. I don't know what it's for. And he's at home, like in a little room with a computer. So I don't know. Just being a dad.
How old is your son?
He's 94. No, he's
Right.
13.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Well, my son's 18 months and he's upstairs asleep right now. So
You
I'm
are lucky.
not running for watercolors yet, but well, still diapers and milk and stuff like that for him.
One day, brother. One day.
Can't wait. So how are you doing? How's this quarantine been treating you so far?
Good. I'm popping my ears. It's been okay. A lot of anxiety and hard. I think in the first few weeks for everyone going, what is going on right now? Like, are we all going to die? you
Right.
know, um, to now where it's like, what did we do? We just fucked up the whole country. And like, why, So every day I'm like reading the articles that everyone else is reading, like, like the death rate's different or the numbers are weird because they don't test everybody. Then they do test everybody. So when it does go up, it's because it's like, it's just death rate. We went from like 30% to 10 to 5. Now it's under 1. It's just the same thing that everyone's thinking and reading is happening with me and my family. We just sit around and we're like, what do we do? Do we go to the beach? And we were like, yeah, we go to the beach. But
Right.
do we go
Right.
on, do we wear the masks? Do we whatever? So it's that kind of thing. But we're doing good. I think we're exactly the same as you, I guess, is my point.
Yeah, it's I think that anxiety and also kind of not knowing, and I'm sure a lot of people like you in the music business are dealing with this too. We don't know what the end of this is going to look like, and like you guys were about to go on the road, go
Yeah.
on touring and stuff like that, and we don't know if concerts come back, what those are going to look like at least until whatever new normal we get to.
Yeah, and the concert industry is hard because everyone's together. So I've heard things about launching, like in the fall, some shows and stuff, but like half capacities.
Right.
Um, there's a lot of talk about pay-per-view events. There's a lot of talk about like just different concepts of presenting a live performance. Drive-ins, everyone's in their
Right.
car, which I thought was kind of interesting. Because if you do that, then you can do some dirty, naughty stuff with your lady during the show. That would be great because Angels and Airwaves makes people horny. So we just got to deal with that issue.
So if you might as well embrace it, right?
You got to
You might as
embrace
well
it.
let people do it.
You don't fight it. You embrace it and you amplify it, which is actually Brian Eno. You know Brian Eno?
Yes, yeah.
Brian Eno, for people listening, famous producer, famous musician. He produces all the U2 albums. He did some Coldplay albums. But in any case, he put out this stack of cards that whenever a creative person is stuck and can't figure out what to do next, whether he's an author or a musician or whatever, you can pull a card and it'll help you get out of being stuck. But one of the cards was take the problem and amplify it and use it as your biggest thing. Like, say there's a part that kind of sucks in a song and you're like, I really don't like that cowbell. He would be like, turn the cowbell up and make that the major part of the song then, you know. But I think it applies here a little bit.
Right, right. So you guys had a tour ready to roll out in January. Unfortunately, that got postponed, ironically because of illness. And then obviously you were postponed to May and stuff like that, and then that got moved because of COVID. I mean, how frustrating was that for you? Because it's been a minute since you guys have been able to get out on the road, and obviously, like everybody else, you're kind of grounded until as we've been talking about, figure out what the next step is.
Yeah, we're right now. We're supposed to be playing all the big festivals. We had Lollapalooza and we had Shaky Knees and Boston Calling and like all those. We were on all of them, and we had
Right.
for Angels and Airwaves, it's been kind of underground for a while. It's a big moment for us because the band is just in its best shape it's ever been in, and it kind of came back with a vengeance, you know, and then and everything's just popping for us, and we have a plan, and we're doing well. We're playing the best we've ever played, and this album is the best album Angels and Airwaves has ever done. That's coming up, and so it's sad for us because we had everything perfectly planned out, but everything happens for a reason, you know. And I think it's going to create a situation where, you know, if I'm looking at the bright side, I got a little bit more time to even make the stuff more bitchin'. I mean, if I wasn't home, I wouldn't have written the last three songs. The three songs I just put on the record, since we had canceled the tours and COVID came up, are the best, some of the best songs of my life. So I'm like, whoa, you know, everything happens for a reason. So I'm gonna let it just like do its thing, and you got to go with the wave of life. You got to surf the wave of life. You can't fight it. It's pushing you in a direction, and you got to sense it. And if you don't sense it and you go a different direction, everything's hard. You know, you're swimming against the current. You know, you're like, God, it's not working out. I'm not getting the job, and I'm arguing with everybody, and I hate where I'm at, and I hate my house, and you know, it's like whatever. You got to feel the opportunities and find out what, I don't know, surf the wave of life. Look at that. It's
Well,
very spiritual.
when you guys put out All That's Left Is Love, that was kind of, your message was kind of about not necessarily surfing the wave of life, but definitely looking for those positive moments in life. And you said that's kind of what the band has always been about. Where did that song kind of come out of? Was it just like seeing a news story or something about something positive going on?
It was actually, the song was recorded except for the vocals. So I had all the instruments done. All I had to do was sing it now. And so I called up my engineer and I said, stay 6 feet away from me, but get in here and let's sing this song and put it out right now. I want to sing about something different. So I rewrote the words because I was just inspired. I've been doing a lot of these interviews on Instagram with different radio stations, and I always tell the story, like I get exposed to a lot of science, a lot of exotic, cool shit at To the Stars Academy, my company, and a lot of it a lot of it's esoteric, and a lot of it's with consciousness. And I really wanted to stop this kind of cyclical thing where people are scared reading, you get more scared, get nervous, and it's negative, negative, negative. And unless you read these science articles and reports and experiments and understand that the mind really does control matter, it really does. That's why, you know, I have a government report from somewhere about a kid that can move objects with his mind. You know, I have my co-founder of To the Stars, Dr. Hal Puthoff, was the head physicist on the UFO program for the Department of Defense, and he created remote viewing, which was like the psychic spy program for the CIA. A bunch of guys meditating and pulling out information about everything. So there's so much that we don't know about how consciousness works. And but what we do know is that what you think really does propel the events in your life. It's just physics. It just has something to do with consciousness creates or manipulates matter. And I can talk about so many more experiments and how this is, how they're learning. They're going, oh my God. Like the most famous is called the double slit experiment, where they put two slits in like like think of like a piece of paper with two slices in it, and they would shoot one photon through the slice, either one of the slices. But the photon would go through the slice that whatever the guy was thinking about. So if the scientist is thinking of the left one, the proton would go through that. And if he was thinking of the right one, it would go through that. But there's a plate behind it that would collect the proton, and it was doing this thing, a pattern, where when they were done with all the experiment, they looked at the plate and it was a wave. Like at every proton hit, and it marked like a wave. So it's like these waves of probability. We're all light. It's so interesting, and it's so hardcore physics. It's not. This isn't like weird, like, you know, some dude that does yoga that's like, look at this. You know, this is like real shit. You know.
Right.
So that's why I wrote the song. I was like, I want people to cheer up, think differently, feel differently, stop the cycle of being a fear, and do my little part as an artist. I don't think the song's going to change the world. You know, I'm thinking artists need to do all this right now, and collectively it can help. You know, I'm just doing my little part.
And then, of course, you partner with Feeding America too, and their COVID-19 relief fund with proceeds going to that. I think that's obviously something that can impact people like all over the country dealing with this, because, you know, as we mentioned at the top of this, the like economic impact, not knowing all these different numbers coming out, not knowing when things are going to start and stop, and all that. it's something that a lot of people are feeling right now. So I think that was a cool partnership you guys were able to put together with that.
I appreciate that. Feeding America has been an organization I've worked with for years. I've gone to schools and handed out food to underprivileged kids. My daughter worked in their warehouse for the distribution of food. I've gone to the events and donated so much stuff for the auctions to raise money, um, and it was really easy because when those went down, there's so many kids that couldn't even eat because a lot of these kids, millions of kids, each week only get their real meal at school, their one meal of the day, and they go home because they're in poverty. So when you can't go to school, these kids aren't eating. So it just made a lot of sense. And obviously, is it really like a 30% unemployment rate? That's insane. I mean, that's insane. People need help right now. So
So let's rewind a bit because I know you kind of touched on it. You're really into all this unexplained, phenomena, aliens and stuff. I got people in the chat blowing me up about asking about aliens.
sure.
This Pentagon unclassified some videos of UFOs a couple weeks ago from 2004,
They
2014. How
they
many
were,
times have you watched those already?
oh my gosh, trillion. But they were actually declassified when I brought them out a couple years ago,
Right.
with To the Stars Academy in the New York Times. Um, but it caught some of the brass, the higher level brass at the Pentagon off guard because I can't get into it, but the way it happened, it was under the radar, and it was proper. But they hide things that are not classified just because it might open a Pandora's box of like, what the fuck do you know, and how long have you known this, and what are you doing?
Right,
So
right.
when this came out, they were, oh my god. And there's many more videos, and there's so much more coming. You got to watch To the Stars of the Cat. Just pay attention to what we're doing. Been telling people this shit, and I think people are realizing they should trust what I say now. I think I understand why in the beginning people are like, he's lost his mind, he's crazy. He walked away from this giant band, and he's talking about spaceships, and I get it. And I just go, guys, trust me, I get it. And then we bring the videos out. I brought out all the guys from the CIA, the guys that ran the program, the guys that were worked on the program from Department of Defense, Office of the Secretary of Defense. I mean, they're all there. To the Stars Academy is that. Then we brought out the videos and stuff. We briefed all the senators. We organized all the briefings at Congress. You can watch a lot of that happen on our show on the History Channel called Unidentified. And then we got the Navy to acknowledge that UFOs are real. First time in U.S. history that we did that. So if there is going to be my name in the history books, to be associated with something crazy like that. And so the Navy admitted they're real. The Navy admitted that they have to deal with these things. And then just recently, the Department of Defense, as an entire institution that's above the Navy, was forced to then publish the videos.
Right.
And that's what happened right now. So it's stepping up because they can't fucking lie. They can hide. They can obscure things. They can manipulate the conversations. They can skirt the issue. But they can't fucking lie. And so if they get caught lying, that could be a federal offense. So we are putting the pressure all the way around these guys to be respectful and accountable to the people in the country, but it trickles to the whole world. But it has to be done sensitively because there are some major national security concerns dealing with this subject. And so we don't want to go out and just be brazen about it and stupid about it and expose something or break something that's very important. So that's why it's really important that we do this. My company is built to do this with the intelligence community, institutions in government, and with the military and so on. Like, got to walk step by step so everyone trusts each other, believes in each other, and we can get this done.
I mean, how much do you think social media in this day and age maybe plays a role in holding government agencies accountable about that stuff? There's in 25 years ago, you didn't have people with the ability to tweet, to find all this stuff and post about all these things that they're seeing and whatnot. But now, obviously, in this day and age, anybody with a cell phone can really kind of have that conversation. I mean, how much do you think social media has changed that?
Massively. The government is way more accountable now that people can film anything, catch people saying things, research on their own. There's a lot of bullshit out there. There's a lot of facts out on the internet that aren't facts, you know. So, but it does matter, and it's a big deal. And things that are important spread like wildfire, and then our leaders are forced to comment on it. And if they comment wrong, they're going to get their ass kicked a little bit by the system.
Right.
So I think it's a big deal, you know. But this is what I got to tell people. People need to realize that this is a very difficult subject. It's a very there's some scary kind of unnerving parts of it, and it's a lot for people to digest. It's going to be very hard for people to digest, including people like my mom, who's like super religious, you know. Like, I have compassion for people, but there's some good things about this, and there's some really exciting things about this. So people just got to be patient. We got to do it the right way, and we got to respect the people that are dealing with this stuff in government, because these aren't, they're not like brazen, like, guys in the CIA that are running a conspiracy. And, you know, like, it's not, this isn't James Bond. This is like real, and this is very unnerving to deal with. These guys don't want to deal with this stuff, you know. And the last thing they want is social media going crazy and Congress going, let's have a hearing and grandstand and get on TV and yell at you. They're like in a little basement somewhere with the weight of the world on their shoulders. You know, this is a big deal. So and so far, I think a lot of people are starting to understand that. And so my role is to help communicate a lot of that stuff, and get everyone understanding and aligned, and step by step get this stuff out there.
What was it about this that kind of piqued your interest to start getting into this stuff? Like, you know,
Oh my God, yeah.
you know, like, where did this come from? Where you were one, you know, obviously it wasn't just like one day you were like, I'm going to start doing this now. Like, what kind of got you into searching for this kind of stuff?
Well, Angels in Air, I've always been about this stuff. So when Blink signed to Universal Music Group, I think we had like a budget to record the record. It was probably a couple $100,000, and recording the record was going to cost a couple $100,000. Sorry, call back. Oh, I can do. Okay. So,
Oh, hold on.
am I there?
You're here. You're here.
Hello?
I got you.
Yeah, I turned my do not disturb on. Okay, so what I was going to say was, so we got our first like little check from the label. It was probably like $10,000 or something. We had to split it up. We pay commissions. You know, I probably had a couple grand, but I took that check and I raced down and bought a computer with dial-up internet. You know, it's so slow. I mean, it's unreal how slow that was. Like, if you had to deal with that now, people would shoot their fucking heads off.
Oh my God.
Like, I spent 24 hours a day for the next couple years researching with that. And I had giant binders, and I was really trying to understand, you know, what is this? Who are these people? What are the experiences? What are the patterns? And I never, it never ended. Then we went on tour, and we didn't have smartphones. We're in a van. There's no fucking iPhone, you know, so you read books when you're on a 12-hour drive to the next city. And so I started reading a lot of books about it. And then again, it just grew and grew and grew. So by the time I created Angels and Airwaves, it was like, it meant to be an art project. It wasn't meant to be just a band. It was meant to be like, how do we do movies and books and albums and put it all together and really do something that has more emotional impact? And space was kind of like the icing on the cake, because space, I was so obsessed with the subject, but the celestial kind of nature and the artwork, iconography, symbology, all that kind of shit that we did, and I still do, was really all about the consciousness and who are we, where are we going, and what's this all about? Is it just to work 9 to 5? Like, really, that's what life is? Or is there something bigger here? And it's these questions that we all have, but I was searching for answers, but I didn't think the answers were here. I personally didn't think the answers were in religion, because everyone argues. I grew up in a religious household, but I remember, like, I was like, if I go as a Christian over to the Middle East, they don't give a fuck. Their religion's been around thousands of years earlier. You know, it's like, how am I going to tell them that, you know, my God's the real God? He was here a couple thousand years ago. And, you know, the world's like a few billion years old, and these guys have an older God, you know, and it's that kind of thing going in my head. And so this subject was the only subject that seemed to be like, well, if it's real, then the chances of a human in a toga wearing, Jesus, chances are he's not making their planet. It was that kind of thing in my head. I'm not trying
Right.
to say not to believe, but I understand the sensitivities with religion. I'm not trying to dig on anything. I'm just telling you from my experience where I came from. I was trying to kind of consolidate like what was pounded into my head, about what the universe is all about, and why we're here versus what I was finding out with these very tangible facts. And it wasn't going together. And so I figured if this subject is real, everyone's going to have a reckoning with their belief system. And then maybe that's the one thing where we look at our brothers and sisters across the ocean in a different country and go, why are we bombing you? Like, why are we arguing? Why are we fucking not like supporting each other and building bridges across the ocean and traveling and hanging out in all these different countries and enjoying the archaeology and the culture and the food and like really like loving each other? Like,
Right.
fuck are we fucking going to war for? Like, it's like that's kind of where my mind was. And so I chased it. And it led and the art project with a guy that researched this stuff, with hopes of finding some answers, turned into To the Stars. And that's when I was like, the movie's going to be about UFOs, these big, huge movie franchise. I'm going to tell the story. And then I realized I was like, shit, I'm going to get in a lot of trouble if I go put this out there without asking a little bit of permission. So I went and asked permission. I spent a year making my way into the Department of Defense. And finally, these people in there were like, all right, all right,
Yeah.
you know? And so that's what's happening. But it's not a big spill. It's not like we come out, open the door, and throw a big bucket of info on you. It's like, we're going to take a squirt gun and squirt you with a little bit of info from this bucket. And it's going to take us a while to squirt you. But by the time we're out of all the shit in the bucket, you won't care. You'll be okay. You'll be like resilient. Because if I threw the bucket at you, you would probably fucking, have a panic attack and die, So
Right.
it's that kind of thing.
Were you surprised by how well Angels and Airwaves was received when you launched that? Because I know you said it kind of started as an art project, but man, that thing blew up when that first album came out. You guys were on like MTV shows with your songs and all that. Were you kind of taken aback by that?
Yeah, and I was in a difficult part of my life too, so I don't know how much I noticed because I came from a really big band, and then I lost my identity, and I was young, and I was trying to, find out who I was and where I'm going and what I want to say and what's my voice and what's my kind of music, not what's the voice of three different people and what's the music of three different people combined. Like,
Right.
what do I want to be and do, and what do I want to express? So when it came out and it did do really well, I don't know how much I was thankful at the moment. I think I was more driven to like, it's not Blink. It's not Blink. Is it successful? It's not successful. It's not in arenas. I wasn't, I don't think I was mature enough to handle the pressure of launching a new band coming out of a very big band, Um,
Right.
and then I got into so much stuff, I got into my companies and like the past 7 years, I haven't been touring at all. Because by the time I started working with the U.S. government and on the research products we got and the people coming out and joining the company and all that kind of stuff, at the time I couldn't tell the Blink guys about it, so they were going crazy. They didn't understand that I couldn't prioritize the band, and I couldn't tell them why. I couldn't tell them
Right.
I couldn't tell them who I was talking to. I couldn't tell them what was coming, and so everything kind of went south. But for good reason, it let me focus on the stuff. So here I'm coming back with Angels and Airwaves, and we've been putting out music for a while, but to the fans that know of it, so the fan base is growing and really strong, but very under the radar. And then now we're back as a full-time. It's the priority of my life. I got the company up and running. I got the whole system up and going. The government is doing its thing, and more shit's coming. And I got a great team. I have now the ability to focus on my art, and so that what you see here is me doing that, I guess.
That's really cool. That's got to be freeing for you in a way too, to kind of have that weight off a little bit, that you can focus a little more on what you want to do.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. I'm trying. It is. It is. It feels good to not. I never want to be in an office. It's like that's
Right.
not me. But I am passionate and entrepreneurial, and I like setting it up and then pushing it off and saying, okay, do your thing and let me go back over here. And so now we're doing that, and I'm excited. This is going to be an incredible year for 2 stars and for Angels and Airwaves. And I've been working at this for 13 years. So if everything happens the way I think it could happen this year, I'm going to probably take a huge breath, sit down, grab a beer. I don't even drink beer, but I'll grab one. And then
do it anyway.
I'll do it anyway. And I'll say, okay, I went to a psychic. I go to psychics every once in a while because they're fucking funny and fun and weird. Like this one time when I was starting To the Stars Academy, I had 3 partners at the time. And one of them was a little reluctant to put his name out there and to do this. This is a big deal. These guys work and all of my partners still have their what's called TSSCI clearance. They're all polygraphed security clearances, still working with the government in various consulting ways. And
Right.
So to come out and put your name out there with something that has a lot of stigma and all that shit, it's a big deal. It's hard for them, right? But so this guy was thinking, he wasn't sure about it, but the other 2 were all in. We're doing this. We're fucking doing this, right? So I go to the psychic, and right when I walk in, makes me sit down, super nice, seems totally normal. She's like, give me your hands. She grabs my hands. And the first thing she says, you have a company, 2 of them are completely in. It's 3 men, but the third guy has some cold feet. I was just like, what? Who are you? Like, how did you know this? But I went to one a little while ago, and they said that at the end of this year, we'll start to have this thing where I look around and say, we arrived. I think it's the beginning of a process. I don't think it's going to happen like on November, but
Right.
but I was like, okay, I'll hold on to that. That sounds good. That's rad. Wouldn't it be great? Like when you see like some intuitive and they look you in the eye, you will have it all together by this date. You're like,
Yeah,
oh,
that's
that
like the
sounds great.
confidence boost you need, you know?
You need it. I need just a little bit of psychic confidence boost, But then I've talked to other ones and they didn't give me shit. They didn't know anything. Like it was just like total waste. But there are, dude, when you go to one and they really have those intuitive abilities. And the reason I like them too, it's like I know about this stuff. Like they use these people at the CIA,
Right.
because
Right.
it worked. We all can do that shit, by the way. They're like weightlifters. They can just lift a lot more weight than we can because they practice a lot. They go to the gym a lot more. But you and I can do all of that. We can. We just don't. We haven't learned it. We haven't figured out how to meditate and get the information, but they have. And
Right.
so I think people, it's cool. But what you don't want to do is like go to Hollywood and it says psychic, and that's the one you go to, and it's like on Sunset, and you're like, oh, there's like dirty and there's vomit everywhere and there's homeless people, and you're like, I'll go pay $25 and see, how good my life's gonna be.
Right.
I think you
Right.
just gotta find the right one. I don't know.
Yeah, you can't do like the self. You have to go to like the practiced ones. You can't go to like the touristy.
No, touristy
right?
ones. How could those be real? It just seems weird to me because the good one, I've only done it a couple of times, but this one in particular that is the real deal. Like she's in this great little spiritual office and counsels couples, and she's like a real kind of new age kind of like huge heart, like trying to help people. She's not like on Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood, like just grabbing tourists and saying with a crystal ball and go, "You are hungry."
A lot of people are asking me to ask this question. I was going to ask it to you anyway. The story that came out, I think it was yesterday, about NASA scientists in Antarctica possibly discovering evidence of a parallel universe that goes backwards. Did you see this story at all?
I so wish I could tell you what I know. I so wish I could tell you what I know about that, and I can't. It's a very big deal, and it's
Yeah.
a very big deal to the UFO subject, but I can't get into it.
Okay. All right. But I think it's just one of those things where I think you were kind of alluding to it before. Too much information is going to blow people's minds. Even that little bit of information, like that this might be a thing, and here's like this little speck of evidence. Like I saw people sharing the story all over social media, just like mind blown, just couldn't
Well,
even comprehend it.
what if it's the physics are opposite, time is opposite, and technological advancement is opposite?
That's wild.
Just think about that.
Everything that's intuitive that you would think, just having grown up with is completely backwards.
It's a big deal, and stay on this. Do not think this is just a cool little thing. Stay on it. That's all I got to say.
I'll keep an eye on it for sure. Tom, thank you so much, man, for your time today. I really, really appreciate it. Go enjoy some watercolors with your son,
I know.
and stay safe out there, okay?
Hey, thank you so much for your support for Angels and Airwaves, and it's a big deal. It means a lot to me, so I really appreciate it.
Definitely. We hope to have you in Northeast Pennsylvania sooner rather than later, okay?
All right, take it easy.
All right, be good. See you, Tom.